Welcome to the SOTI video series. My name is Richard Fitzsimmons, one of the principal instructors within SOTI's global training team. And today we're excited to present SOTI XSight Live View. And in today's session we're going to delve into the detailed configuration of a live view. Now, Live View offers a dynamic insight into your business operations in real time, and it serves as a robust analysis and intelligence tool. As you'll observe on the screen, Live View provides real-time visibility of devices, device data, and business operations data. The data, or topics as we call them, can be combined from multiple sources into consolidated views that you determine to comprehend your ongoing activities effectively. And these can be seen on a geographical location, as we're currently seeing, or as a list view, which we'll see shortly. Now, the icons and visualizations indicate key information about either the device or the state of operations across the fleet, enabling prompt adjustments to optimize operations. So let's use the scenario of a city's emergency services with, for example, devices that are situated in ambulances. Now, Live View can become instrumental for emergency response times, to see the operational state of each ambulance, to observe patient conditions, to see equipment information, and more. And the icons that we're seeing on the map serve a dual purpose. So firstly, as these devices are, in our example, within vehicles, they're dynamically indicating the location of the emergency vehicles. The icons also have different colours, and you can choose what each colour signifies. We can click on an icon to view detailed information about that vehicle. For example, digging into the device details reveals that properties are associated with distinct colours. For instance, a green against the state currently indicates that the vehicle is currently on scene. If this was a different colour, let's say blue, that might be indicating the vehicle is in transit with patients, or red might indicate out of service. Likewise, a blue against patient conditions indicates stable, and a red against blood pressure indicates that the blood pressure is high. And these icons can be similarly crucial for monitoring other conditions that you would define dependent on your context. Now, there are three visual properties that can be seen, and we call these the marble, the disc, and the ring. It's worth noting, although these are the three visual properties, there are many other topics that you can bring into your view. Furthermore, you can click on a property to inspect its status over a specific period. Let's say we want to look at how blood pressure has changed over time. We can select this, and it's like a time machine. We can go back and see how this has changed over time and compare this particular parameter with everything else that's going on in the vehicle as well. And we can also make use of this time machine idea fleet-wide. For example, we could be aware of maybe a signal outage that happened an hour ago, or a particularly severe traffic condition. We could go back and see what happened at that particular time. So for example, if I select this button, this is our toggle time slice, we could pause the live view and go back half an hour, or other times. So let's go back an hour, for example, and I can see the state of operations across the fleet at that particular period of time. And it's not just about devices in vehicles either. As said before, the list view, if we move over to the list view, provides the same level of data, including being able to click on further device details by clicking details. And it's not just about the devices and vehicles either. The list view provides the same level of detail, including the ability to get the further device details. However, this is more suitable for the devices that are used at particular sites or locations, or are generally just more static in terms of their use. These versatile features extend their benefits to other industries as well, including retail, logistics, transportation. However, the question is, how do we gather the information from those different sources so that they are displayed? So let's explore how to configure a live view using our specific use case, where the city department is creating a live view for one of their emergency services. Before we can include the devices that we wish to monitor though, we do need to check some prerequisites. So firstly, the Windows or Android device needs to be managed by SOTI Mobi Control. And secondly, the SOTI XSight agent needs to be installed on the device. Now, in terms of generating and getting the SOTI XSight agent onto the device, this will be done initially through the SOTI XSight console. We can go to the menu and we can go to the area called Generate SOTI XSight Agent. Now, this is a once-only task, usually on the initial setup of SOTI XSight, or if a new version of the SOTI XSight agent becomes available. We would choose the platform in question, as mentioned, either Android or Windows. In my case, I'm going to choose Android. The version of the agent, I give this a quick name, so new agent for example, and I would choose the SOTI Mobi Control instance where this is going to be published to. As well as advanced settings, I then click publish, and this will send the SOTI XSight agent as a package to SOTI Mobi Control. As said, this is usually a once-only setup task which will be done on the initial setup of SOTI XSight, or if a new version of the agent becomes available. Once this is published, this will be available as a package within SOTI Mobi Control, as we can see here. As this is a package, it can be sent to devices through a SOTI Mobi Control profile. So if I select our profiles area, you can see that I have a profile set up. I've targeted my devices, and this profile includes SOTI XSight as a package. So this is how it will be sent to the device, and once the device agent is installed, we can have a quick look at how the SOTI XSight agent looks on device side. Once installed, this is what the SOTI XSight agent will look like on the device. We can see that the agent is connected to the server, and if we scroll down to the bottom of the agent information, we can see currently that there is no live view session that is active. But once we've worked through our configuration, there will be. Once these prerequisites have been met, we can navigate to the SOTI XSight console, to the main menu, and select Live View. So to configure a view, as said, in this example, we'll set up a dedicated live view for ambulances. To start, we'll go to the view drop-down. We can see our existing views, and we have the choice to creating a new view. So in my case, I'm going to create a new view. Next, I would enter the name, the Mobi Control instance, the platform, filters, and then we'll move on to topics. For name, I'm just adding a descriptive name which matches the context. So in my case, I'm going to add ambulances and Android devices. Next, we have our SOTI Mobi Control instance. So we'd select the SOTI Mobi Control instance where the device resides. So as said previously, SOTI Mobi Control and SOTI XSight work closely together. The devices need to be managed by SOTI Mobi Control in order to appear in a live view. Now, as said, Live View supports both Android and Windows capabilities. In our example, I'm using an Android device, so I'm going to choose Android here. And next we can move on to the filters. So there are 4 filters that are available: group, location, manufacturer, and device name. The mandatory field is group. We have to select this because at minimum we need to say where the device lives in SOTI Mobi Control. So here we're actually picking out the device groups from SOTI Mobi Control, and in my case my devices live in this SOTI Mobi Control device group. Optionally, I could add further filters, so maybe I'm looking to narrow down based on location, maybe a particular subset of location, maybe a particular OEM, so a particular manufacturer of device, or the device name as well. Next, we can move on to our topics. So once this is added, I'll click Edit Topics here, and we can actually see that there are 6 topics already available: CPU, use memory, cellular signal, Wi-Fi, battery, and use storage as well. Now, these default topics or device properties are provided and monitored by the SOTI XSight agent on the device. So the agent we deployed earlier on is already going to be looking and monitoring this level of information. So if our use case that we looked at earlier on actually was about monitoring device metrics rather than ambulance operational data, all we'd need to do is just pull in the various different topics that we wish to monitor. So I might say Wi-Fi signal, CPU, etc. And I can always just alter the position, alter the order that they will appear in the view. Now note, whatever we're choosing here, we need to make sure that there are at least 3 topics because of the marble, the disc and the ring, those visual elements, but we can add more than 3, but we need at least a minimum of 3. Now, in our case, we're actually going to be looking at different topics. We want to be pulling information from the operational data from the ambulance. But just to show that this is working, I'm just going to click Save, Save again, and I'm going to go and start my view. So now that I've started my view, we can see that my one test device is here. And you may have noticed as well that I've actually changed to the satellite view, which is also available in the map. You can toggle between road map or satellite view as required. In our case, as I said, I've got my one test device here, and if I click here, I can see the latitude and longitude, which is automatically recorded, the CPU, which was my first item that I put in the list in that order, the Wi-Fi signal, news memory, and it's just pulling those what we call default topics from the device. So as said, if this view was for key device data, I could get that directly from what the agent, the XSight agent, is obtaining from the device. We could build our view, and there we are. However, in our particular example, our live view is for key operational data from the ambulances. So we want to monitor particular information such as the equipment status or the patient vitals. So how can this operational data be fed into this view? So if the view that we were looking for was about monitoring device level data across the fleet, we could use this view for all of our devices and of course have those key metrics of CPU, memory and other items to view. But in our particular example, we're looking for key operational data from the ambulances. We want to monitor key properties such as the equipment status, the ambulance's state and other details. So how can this data be fed into our view? Well, the versatility of Live View allows this operational data, or custom topics, to be provided through 3 different routes. Let's explore each one in turn. So firstly, we have data that's added using the JSON method, and we'll use this to obtain, let's say, the state of the ambulance currently. Now, the JSON method relates simply to a file that is stored on the device's storage. The file is in a JSON format, and if a third-party app, a sensor or a piece of equipment is enabled to write data to this file, as the app is being updated, the contents of the file is updated, and in turn this is picked up in SOTI XSight Live View. For example, let's say that this in-house built app records the ambulance's ID, which we can see is currently 772, and the state, as the operator changes it, whether it's out of service, whether it's arrived on scene, whether the patient is in transit, etc. So the app developer has configured the app so that this data is written to a file on the device's storage dynamically. When the state changes on the app, the file is updated, and in turn Live View would be updated as well. So just to get an idea of our file structure, here we are. We're looking for example, the device ID. As the device ID is being entered and submitted on the app, the value of the device ID on the file would be updated. Likewise, when somebody moves the state from arrived to scene to, let's say, patient in transit, the value of state would also be updated on the file on the device. So what we're looking to do here is really know just where this file exists on the device so it can be used and be brought in to SOTI XSight Live View. To do this, let's stop our existing view and let's edit it. So I'll click edit and we'll see all the information that we set up previously. I'm going to go and edit our topics, and rather than choosing or altering our default topics, which the agent automatically monitors, I'm actually going to choose the option called Add Custom Topic. When I click Add Custom Topic, I'll have a wizard that I can work through in terms of what data we're looking to pick up, what is the data type, and where we're looking to obtain this from. So firstly, I have the choice of whether we are picking up an integer or a string. So integer would be a whole number, whereas string would be a text value. In our case, given that I'm looking at the state, arrived on scene, for example, or patient in transit and other values, we can see that this is text data. So I'll be using one of the string options for text. I've then got the choice between whether this is arbitrary or suitable for mapping for colors on icons. The colors relate to our 3 visual icons, the marble, the disc and the ring, as we saw earlier. So it could be that our text is, let's say, somebody's name or a street name, something that really isn't a category, something that can't be mapped to a subset of various different colors. Or it could be, in our case, that we have some categories from our app. We saw that there were a small number of categories in terms of which state the ambulance could be in, whether it was out of service, whether it had arrived on scene, etc. So given that we've got a small number of categories here, this would be very suitable for mapping to colors on icons. So in our case, I'll say green might be that the ambulance is arrived on scene, whereas blue might indicate that the patient is in transit. And again, the file is being updated from the app as the user is entering information. Now I'm going to fill in a few other areas just to complete our mapping. I've now provided the mappings for all 5 of our colours here, with arrived on scene being green, for example, and out of service being red. I'll then click next. I've next got the choice about how frequently the XSight agent on the device is going to be looking for updates from our file. Do we want this to be every 15 seconds, as quickly as every 5 seconds, or 60 seconds, for example? In my case, I'm very happy for this to be every 15 seconds, that the XSight agent will look if there is an update to the file on the device. Next, I'll say how we are retrieving this data, and in this example, we are retrieving data from the JSON file that is stored somewhere in the device's storage. Finally, before we get this saved, I'll say what this will be called, where the file exists on the device, and what item from the file I'm looking to obtain. So the display prompt text, as said, is what this is going to be called when we start our view. So for me, I'm going to call this something nice and straightforward as state. The second option will be the file path. So this is where the file lives on the device. In my case, I've actually placed our file in the documents folder, and the name of the file is ambulance status app.json. Remember, you can distribute files and various other configurations very easily to devices through SOTI Mobi Control. Lastly, I'm saying what item within the file I'm looking to obtain. And in our situation, I'm looking for the value of state, currently arrived on scene. So I'm looking to pick up the file, and specifically say I'm looking to pick up state. So SOTI XSight is going to be pulling the value of this. To do this, I will say $, to indicate that I'm looking in the file, and then the particular key in the file that I'm after, which in our case is state. Now, as you're testing with this, please note that there is a checkbox to show you errors if the JSON file cannot be read from, and this is a very, very helpful tool as you are initially testing and making sure that you're picking up your data from the right area. Finally, I'll click finish, and you can see that our custom data is symbolized with a triangle in blue here, and I'm going to prioritize this as one of the top items, so it's going to appear as the marble in our view. I'll then click save and save. Let's start our view again to see if our custom topic of state is now being retrieved. There's our view. If I click on our icon, we can see that the top icon, the marble, which is shown in green, matching our color mapping, is arrived on scene, and we can see the name of this is state from the view and the custom topic that we've just set up. The second custom topic option uses an XT socket connection. This is a similar idea to the JSON file option we saw previously. However, instead of a third-party component writing data to a file on the device, a developer can incorporate SOTI XSight's SDK, or software development kit, directly into their app to provide an XT socket connection to the SOTI XSight agent. Now, you can download the software development kit for incorporation into your business critical apps from the SOTI XSight downloads page or from SOTI Pulse. Here I can see we have a plugin, XSight Live View plugin for Android devices. This would be the SDK for Android devices. And likewise, there is an XSight Live View Windows plugin that can be used for Windows devices. For example, let's say that the City Emergency Services team already has an internally developed application to monitor, let's say, blood pressure, body temperature, pulse, and other vitals of the patient, as we can see currently on the device. Now, if the development team for this app incorporates SOTI XSight's SDK, the relevant fields will be shown in Live View as the app is updated. So to do this within our SOTI XSight Live View configuration, I'm going to stop my existing view. As we've done previously, I'm going to go back to our ambulances view and click edit. I'm going to edit the topics, and I'm going to go and add another custom topic. I'll click next, and again we're going to be met with the message of what type of data this is. Is this going to be an integer, or is this going to be a string? For this example, I'm going to focus on blood pressure, and given that this is a blood pressure, it's a numerical range, I'm going to choose integer. Now again, as we're looking at numerical, a whole number, an integer, we have the choice of either arbitrary values, so something that can't be mapped to a range, maybe age for example, or something that can be suitable for mapping to colors and icons. Now again, I'm going to choose mapping for colors and icons because I'm going to say if the blood pressure is within a normal blood pressure range, we can map it to one color. If it is a high blood pressure, for example, let's mark it as a different color. So again, it can be really easily distinguishable within the view as the operator is using this. And we then proceed to click Next. So as we're looking at numerical data that's suitable for mapping to colors, we then have a numerical range with a minimum value and a maximum value. So given that we're looking at blood pressure, I could say that, let's say, a normal blood pressure range will be highlighted in green, and a high blood pressure range will be inputted and highlighted as red, for example. And of course, we could make various different changes to these parameters dependent on the topic in question. We'll then click Next, and we then have collection frequency, as we've seen previously, and two additional fields of significant change and units. So collection frequency will be looking at how frequently the SOTI XSight agent will be looking for a change of this particular topic on the data source. So in this case, it's going to be looking at the app in question, which of course has been developed using our software development kit. So in the case of blood pressure, given that this is a critical item, I could say I want the SOTI XSight agent to check for any changes to blood pressure every 5 seconds. Next, we have significant change. And again, this is all about what sort of data is being monitored and the priority of the data and also its context. So in the case of blood pressure, I could say that I want to be notified if the blood pressure changes even by one amount. So I'll enter a significant change of 1. Comparatively, we could be looking at items that are in a vehicle and items that are being dropped off by a delivery driver at various different sites. Now, dependent on the sort of items, it might be that we only want to be updated if 5 items are taking out a delivery vehicle, or 10 items, for example. But importantly, it gives you the choice about when you want Live View to be updated, dependent on what is a key metric and a key threshold. Again, in our case, given this is critical data and blood pressure, I'm going to say I want to be updated even if the blood pressure moves by 1 amount. Finally, we'll put in our units. So this will be the units relevant to the item that you're measuring. So in the case of blood pressure, I will enter the units for blood pressure measurements. Clicking Next, we then choose our data method, which will in this case be using our XT socket, connecting to the app which has been developed using the software development kit for SOTI XSight Live View. We'll click Next. We'll, as the JSON method, in a very similar way, include the display prompt text, which in my case is going to be blood pressure. And then 2 further fields need to be supplied. And this is very similar to the JSON method. If you recall, with JSON, the idea was we provide the file location and then the particular item of data that we're retrieving within the file. In the case of XTSocket, we're including the package or the program ID, so this will be an identifier for the app. The field key, so the particular item or data item within the app that we're looking to monitor. In our example, we'll use the following package ID. And BP for blood pressure. But importantly, these items, the package ID and the field key, will be provided by your developers as they incorporate the SDK into your business critical apps. I'll then say show error if app cannot be read from. And again, this is a beneficial route on initial testing with Live View. Click Finish. And then finally, I'm going to move our blood pressure value to be one of those visible icons. I'm going to mark it as the disk, the second visual item on our view, and click Save and save again. Now finally, let's start our view and see how this looks with the blood pressure reading. We've started our view, and if we click on the icon, we can see that blood pressure is displayed as the disk, so the second visual item. Now we can currently see this is marked in green because the blood pressure is within an average reading, but let me make a quick change on the device. So let's say, for example, I'm going to move to a high blood pressure reading, and then I'll submit this data. Now we see that the disk has updated in red, and we can see that now the high blood pressure is shown very clearly within our visualization within Live View. So we've reviewed two methods in which data from existing apps or sources can be fed into SOTI XSight Live View. And it's worth mentioning that these can all be combined. You can select data topics from different sources, including the default topics that we saw earlier from the SOTI XSight agent, in order to create views that suit your business operational needs. However, what if you don't already have an app? What if there isn't a way for the device user to record information? This is where our third method comes in, and this makes use of SOTI Snap. SOTI Snap is another solution within the SOTI One platform, and it provides rapid app development capability and efficient workflow digitization. For example, on screen we can see we've developed a SOTI Snap application added on the device in the vehicle that allows transmission of data relating to the equipment on the vehicle. We can mark the equipment as operational or non-operational, mark the status of the fuel level, the oxygen level, and we can very quickly make changes to this application if we need to add, let's say, new drop downs, new fields, and other values that we need the user to interact with. Now, these values recorded in the app can also be transmitted real-time to SOTI XSight Live View. But before we look at that part, let's just have a quick review of what's happening on the Snap side in terms of how this app has been created and what needs to be added to the app in order to transmit data to SOTI XSight Live View. Here we have our application. This is the SOTI Snap console, and this is the app building canvas. Now please note that there's also some other videos within our video series that showcase how to build applications within SOTI Snap, and do make sure to take a look at those. Now, we can see with our app that we can add widgets. I could add, let's say, a further drop down very easily wherever I want within this app canvas. I can delete it. I could add further information. I could add maps. I could add internal videos. I could add YouTube links. There's signatures, many other widgets dependent on what you're looking to achieve with your applications. Now in our case, I'm quite happy with the app that I'm built, but what I'd quite like to do is send the value of the equipment status, as we can select with this drop down, whether the equipment is operational or non-operational, and not just have it recorded in the app, but sent into SOTI XSight Live View, so we can see critical vehicle information and equipment information along with all the other information in our view. Essentially, we're saying when the user enters some information on this field, we need to set up a mechanism in terms of getting that into SOTI XSight Live View. And there are two key areas of how this is done in SOTI Snap. Firstly, there is an extensive data connection area within SOTI Snap. Apps can bring data in from numerous sources, displayed within drop-downs, displayed within tables. They can also export data to many locations. Specifically with us, we're looking at a data connection rule for SOTI XSight Live View topics. So I will create a new topic within SOTI Snap, and we can see this as a placeholder on the Snap side, ready to send data into SOTI XSight Live View. I'll give my topic a name. In this case, I'm going to call this equipment status. And as we've already seen with the XSight configuration, we have the choice of our data type, whether we have an integer or a string. In our case, as I'm looking at equipment status with a drop down of operational or non-operational to choose from, I'm going to give this a string, and I might also add a default value. So if for some reason devices are not reporting data, they're going to be marked as non-operational by default for further investigation. I'll click create, and this is the first part. We've got our data connection rule, our XSight topic set up. Now if I click on this, we can see currently that we haven't published this XSight topic yet. What does this mean? It means that we need to actually send a new version of the app to the device, and when we do, we'll get a unique identifier for this particular topic that we can use within SOTI XSight Live View. So we'll come back to this area in a minute once we've done that. So that's our first setting, SOTI XSight Live View topics and creating the topics in question. The second thing would be we need to tell the SOTI Snap app on the device what it's supposed to do when the user enters the equipment status. As in, when the user enters the equipment status, that this needs to be sent to our SOTI XSight Live View topic. There are many places where this can happen. Logic can be built into the SOTI Snap apps in many different ways, but in our case I'm going to add some logic which says when the submit button is selected, we're going to add some logic that says whatever the user has entered here will be passed to our data connection topic, which will be in turn passed to the SOTI XSight agent, ready for SOTI XSight Live View. To do this, we can add some Blockly code. So I'm going to hit the submit button and say when somebody hits the submit button, some Blockly code is going to evaluate, and Blockly is a way of building coding logic into the application in a very, very easy drag and drop way. I'm going to say when somebody hits the submit button, we're going to run some Blockly code, and then I'll go into the Blockly editor. For example, I'll say app to live view, and I'll say here that I'm looking to get two things. Firstly, I'm looking to get the widget values. So I'm looking to get and understand the value of the dropdown. I'm going to say get text from the equipment status dropdown. Another way of saying this is we're getting whatever the user has entered as they're selecting that dropdown, operational or non-operational. Now we've got what the user's entered, we need to send it somewhere, and we're going to send it to our XSight topic. I'll select XSight topic here, and I'm going to say we're going to set the value of our XSight topic, our equipment status topic, to whatever the user has entered. Again, if I reworded this, essentially we're saying we're getting the value of the dropdown here, and we're sending that value to the XSight topic within SOTI Snap, which in turn can be sent to our SOTI XSight agent and into SOTI XSight Live View. I'll click Save on our Blockly code, I'll click Add, and I'll position the Blockly code where it makes sense if other actions are running as well. Lastly, I'll publish our application. And once I've published the app, if I now go back to our data connection rules and our XSight Live View topics, if I click on the topic, you can now see that there is a unique identifier for our equipment data topic. And you may have already noticed, but as soon as I clicked on this, it copied it successfully. And this is what I can use in our live view configuration on the SOTI XSight side. So to set this up, I'm going to close what we've currently got running with our test device. I'll click stop. I'll go back into our ambulance view, click edit. I'll click edit topics again, and then I'll click again add custom topic for our final SOTI Snap topic. I'll click next, and once again we have our choice of whether we are looking at an integer, a whole number, or a string. I'm looking at a string because we were looking at the equipment status, and I'm going to again choose suitable for mapping to colors and icons. I'm going to say it's green if the equipment is operational, and it's red if the equipment is non-operational. Click next. Once again we have our collection frequency. I'm quite happy with the default 15 seconds for this. I'll click next, and I'll say we're looking to retrieve the data from our SOTI Snap application. Now we can see that there are two fields required. One is the name, and the other is our topic identifier, which we've actually just copied from SOTI Snap. So I can paste that in there and give this a name, and I'm going to call this equipment status. Once again, we can show an error if app data can't be read from, and click finish. As we've done with our other topics, I'm going to move equipment status to higher up in the list, so I'm going to get this showing as the disk within the visible items. I'll click save, save again, and then we can start our view and see whether this is working. Okay, we have our view running. We have the color red around the disk. We click on our icon, we can see the equipment is currently noted as non-operational and showing in red. Let's make a change. Let's go into our device and let's change the equipment status from non-operational to operational. We'll hit submit, and let's see if the changes apply on the live view console. On the live view console, we can see that this is now indicated by a green disk, and if we click on the information, we can see that the equipment status is now marked as operational. So we've successfully customized Live View to monitor critical data specific to the organization's needs, and we've looked at 3 methods of pulling in custom data as well as the default topics as we saw. This approach allows you to configure data to be populated from multiple sources, enhancing the flexibility and customization of your Live View. Now that we have our view configured, containing both the default topics and the custom topic options that we saw, let's take a look at some additional operational actions. Firstly, to enhance user interaction, you have the option to enable flag events. Now you can do this on a view if we click Edit and make sure that the flag events check is selected. Click Save and then start the view. Now what the flag events will do will allow you per device or per icon to note a particular flag. What's a flag? Well, really, a flag is any event that you choose that impacts your operations or is something notable that you need your operators to be aware of. So for example, in this context, maybe we want to highlight a potential traffic issue that an ambulance on a specific route may need to be aware of because they may encounter. In this case, I'll select Edit. I will choose maybe red for our flag event because it's something important that needs to be monitored, and I'll say traffic condition. I'll click Save and then I'll close the view. Notice now that our particular device has a red flag next to it because we chose this as a red flag event. And these of course can be altered and removed as various different events occur. This functionality allows for quick identification and communication of important events within the Live View interface. Secondly, we've noticed as we've gone through the configuration that the top 3 topics will appear as either visible icons as the marble, the disc or the ring on the map view, or if we move over to the list view, that will appear within our visible list view columns: state, patient condition and blood pressure. We can click Get Details to get further device details and further topics. What happens if you want to view all the information, all of the available topics from all the devices in one go? That's where we can use this device snapshot and show table feature. I'll click on Show Table, and here we're waiting for 10 seconds as the SOTI XSight server is reaching out to all the device agents and requesting that they provide all the information that they have available, including of course our top 3 topics, which are the marble, the disc and the ring, but everything else that's available as well. It's worth noting that Live View sessions, as we said, will show in real time. We can go back in time, as we mentioned before, using the time slice feature. However, the sessions themselves aren't saved. If we would like to save an event or any other information for later viewing, we will need to save the session by clicking the Save button. Let's say, for example, that a route planning team want to review the traffic issues that have occurred, maybe something that we flagged an event on, but they are not available in the office today. So we can give this a name. I'll call this April 24th traffic. I'll click Save, and this save session will now be available within our Save Session dropdown, ready for us to recall on another day or when that team is next available. So today we've explored the powerful Live View feature from SOTI. The Live View feature is a game changer, offering unparalleled control and real-time analysis for your business operations. Stay tuned for more insights and tutorials in our SOTI video series.